everyone, and I'm Alexis, aka the Sloth Reader, and I'm here today to do the Harry Potter spells tag. I was tagged by the absolutely marvelous Jane from It's Jane Lindsay. If you're not subscribed to her, I don't know what you're doing because she's just one of the best people on BookTube. She's super feminist, she's so intelligent, and I'm so impressed with her content on the regular, so I'm so happy she tagged me to do this tag. As you can see from my previous videos and the fact that we're in front of this bookshelf, my apartment is an absolute disaster, and my bookshelves are not organized. All of my books are literally in piles on my table. So that being said, I'm not holding up any books for this video. I'm just gonna put the pictures in and post. Sorry, not sorry, honestly, unless you want to come to my apartment and reorganize my bookshelf for me. So since none of you want to do that, we're just gonna move on. I also want to mention that Jane was holding her wand in her video, and I of course felt like I had to do that, so I've got my Luna Lovegood wand here and I'm gonna wave it around this video. Question number 1 is Expecto Patronum, and that is a childhood book that is connected to very good memories, and for me I have to go with the Land of Elyon books by Patrick Carman, the first one being The Dark Hills Divide. This is the series for me that got me into reading. I had no interest in reading before I started the series, and so obviously it holds a very special place in my heart, and I just remember loving them so much, and literally like this book series, like I followed it like as each book was coming out, and I remember like reading the final book, I think when I was like 14 when it finally came out, and just being like, wow, like just, I love the Land of Elyon books. I really want to reread them, and so this has to be my answer. Question number 2 is Expelliarmus, and that is a book that took you by surprise. And for this one, I have to go with The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I told myself for a long time I really wasn't interested in this book because I don't really like poetry. Poetry is not really my thing, and the whole idea of this book is that it's told in verse, and it's about somebody like exploring their feelings through slam poetry. And so I was like, that just doesn't sound like something I'm going to like. And I was just blown away by how incredible it was. I listened to the audiobook, which is actually read by the author, Elizabeth Acevedo, and it was just an incredible experience. I loved the main character, Xiomara, so much. She was funny, she was just strong, and just like, I loved it, and I did not expect to love it as much as I did, so that one definitely has to be my answer. Question number 3 is Pryor Incantato, and that is the last book you read. As of right now, the last book I just finished literally like an hour ago was Contagion by Erin Bowman, which was one of my like top 5 most anticipated releases of the entire year, and it didn't disappoint me because I really enjoyed it. It was pretty much everything I was hoping it was going to be, and you'll hear more about that in my October wrap-up. Question number 4 is Aloha Mora, which is a book that introduced you to a genre you had never considered before. I don't know what answer I could go with this because like, I am not crazy about domestic thrillers, but like I really loved Gone Girl when I've read it, and I can't say I've really loved a domestic thriller since reading Gone Girl, and I don't know if I read any before reading Gone Girl, but I feel like that's not a good answer because I've always really loved like mystery novels, and so I've always really loved like those kinds of thrillers. I will say I had never read any like paranormal romance before until I had read the Dark Swan series by Rachel Mead, because you guys know in my teens I was Rachel Mead trash, and I'm not ashamed of it. So I never had read paranormal romance before reading those books, and I really enjoyed them, and there was definitely like a moment in my life where like I bought a whole bunch of paranormal romance, but I never actually ended up reading any of those. So I don't know that I really have an answer for this, because even like genres I don't read that much of, like I don't know that I can remember like what book introduced me to that, so I don't have an answer for that, sorry. Question number 5 is Ridiculous, and that is a funny book that you've read, and I absolutely have to go with The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee for this. It was my favorite book of 2017, and part of that was just because I found this book hilarious. This book was so much fun. This book was just so much shenanigans and antics, and just the characters being so witty, and I just really enjoyed myself, and it's such a funny book. It's a long book for like the fact that it's like a historical novel with like a little bit of like a paranormal element to it, but it's just so much fun and it's so funny, and I just have to go with that one. Sonorous, which is a book you think everyone should know about. And for this one, I'm gonna go with Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This was actually Ruta Sepetys' second novel, and she actually wrote it following writing and completing Between Shades of Grey. And it's one of my favorite books I've read this year. It was just absolutely incredible. I don't know that everybody will necessarily love it as much as I did because it's set in New Orleans, and I'm from New Orleans, and I just had a very like very special connection reading that book because it's set in the place I'm from, in like a bygone era, and I just really loved it. But I feel like not as many people know that she wrote that book, because I feel like most people, when they talk about Rudis Fetties, they either talk about Salt to the Sea or Between Shades of Grey. But I highly, highly recommend Out of the Easy. I'm gonna film a giant September-October wrap-up since I didn't do one September, and you're gonna hear me talk more about it, but it was just an absolutely phenomenal novel, and I loved it so, so, so much, and I just want everybody to read it because it was so good. Obliviate, a book or spoiler you would like to forget you've read. So Jane kind of mentioned this in her video too, but I actually like getting spoiled for stuff. I kind of actively seek out spoilers. I don't necessarily read ahead in the book I'm reading, but I have no problems like going online and like reading people's reviews that are spoilery. The only kind of spoiler I don't like is I don't like character death spoilers. Those are the only ones I try to avoid. And like the reasoning for that is because like if I know a character is gonna die, like I have a hard time getting like emotionally attached to them because I'm like, I know you're gonna die. And then their death like doesn't hold any value for me because I'm like, I didn't get attached to you because I knew you were gonna die. All of that being said, there's a character that I know dies in Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo because I read a spoiler for it on Twitter. And I'm so upset that I know about it because I feel like the entire time I was reading Six of Crows, I was like, wow, I already know what's going to happen to this character. I kind of wish I didn't because I'm like, I had to like force myself to kind of like push through and like force myself to kind of get emotionally attached to the situation because I knew if I didn't force myself into that, I wouldn't care, and I want to care. Like, I want to care when characters die. Question number 8 is Imperio, a book you had to read for school. And I don't know if this is supposed to be like a bad book or a good book you had to read for school. I'm not sure what like the connotation of this question is, so I'm just gonna randomly pick a book I read from school that I think more people should read, and that's definitely gonna be The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. Another one of my favorite books of all time. I actually did film a books I loved reading for school video, which I will link down below. But The House of the Spirits is absolutely incredible. If you like magical realism at all, you should definitely check this novel out. Isabel Allende is one of the most Latinx authors, and she's very famous for magical realism, and The House of the Spirits is just a masterpiece, honestly. So I really recommend you check it out if you like family dramas, if you really like multi-generational stories. Like, you have to read this. Question number 9 is Crucio, which is a book that was painful to read. And I kind of have two options for this because I can take this question either negatively or I could take it positively. So I decided I'm just gonna do both. So a book that was painful to read because I just was not enjoying it, I have to probably go with Red Rising by Pierce Brown, because I can't even tell you guys how many times I almost DNF'd that book, and somehow I made it to the end, and then none of it felt like it was worth the struggle I put into that book. So unfortunately, that one was really painful for me to read, also because so many of the things that happen in that book are just not great. So happy with that one. As for a book that's painful to read because it's really good, but like the characters struggle and it's like painful to watch, I have to go with The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I'm sure you guys are so sick and tired of hearing me talk about how much I love The Color Purple, but this book is painful. There are so many parts of this book that just tear open your soul. Celie, the main character, goes through so much, and the characters around her go through so much, and it's painful to read, but it's such a beautiful story, and Celie's character is so resilient and unfazed by all of the horrible crap that happens to her, and it's such an incredible book. So like, it's painful to read because like it's sad and it's emotional, and but it's totally worth it, and I highly recommend the audiobook because it's read by Alice Walker. And question number 10 is Avada Kedavra, and that is a book that could kill. And so I'm going to interpret this kind of as Jane did, where she said like a thick book that like if you hit somebody over the head with it, like they going down. And I'm gonna go with this edition specifically of Pillars of the Earth. It's a paperback edition, and I'm still sure that this might be the heaviest book on my shelves. It's paperback, but it is so heavy, and the corners are like weirdly sharp. Like, if you got somebody just like real good, like, I don't even know if I can like properly swing this. Like, it's so heavy. But like, if you really got somebody with like the corner, man, they'd be out. You'd lay them out. It's disastrous. Like, you could be arrested for a weapon. Like, going through TSA with this thing. It's crazy. Alrighty guys, so that is the Harry Potter spells tag. Again, thank you so much to Jane for tagging me. I haven't been making videos as often as I would really like to, but this tag is just really, really fun, and I really wanted to make sure I did it in like a timely manner, so thanks for basically forcing me to set up my equipment and film a video. So I couldn't wear my Hufflepuff sweatshirt because I didn't know where it was, but I wore black, which like half counts. I could have worn my Hufflepuff scarf, but it's also like really hot and I'm not gonna do that, sorry guys, but whatever. I would absolutely love to know what was a book that was painful for you to read. You can interpret that however you will. I try to upload videos 2 times a week. If you like what I do, hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys soon with another video.